I felt incredibly embarrassed because a dying man is saying, look, you've got all the time in the world. What would you do if you could do anything? And I said, well, I don't know. And ultimately that led to a few weeks later me going, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to run around the world. I'm going to be the first person to run a marathon in every country. And we ended up spending £1 million, filling up 9 passports and using 455 flights. That was one hell of a journey.
Destination X, the BBC reality game show.
All of a sudden I'm cooped up like a caged animal on a blacked out bus, traveling around, not being able to get my therapy. I mean, my therapy is my running.
You played the game and you weren't afraid to show it.
There was definitely some butting of heads, but there was a lot of targets on my back.
You've also ran the coast of Britain, the length of Italy, set up a foundation that you are continuing to raise money for in a very unique way. Now you're taking people around the world and sharing some of the experiences that you've had through your run weekends.
There's no pace, there's no medal, there's no race. It's just hopping from mountain huts in the mountains or staying on beautiful beaches in some of the most remote places in the world. If I work on this for 30 years and it doesn't amount to anything, I've still had a great time doing it.
You are Mr. Possible.
Mr. Possible.
You've made these things happen through sheer will, grit, determination.
Once you have that philosophy of you've got this tiny amount of time, then everything changes. You're like, no, I'm going to do these cool things and I'm going to enjoy the world as if I only have a couple of years to live too, because I have the opportunity to live more and this is my time.
I live a nomadic lifestyle and I'm never in one place for too long. So from time to time, I find it very convenient to order groceries in the form of a Gusto box. I've been using Gusto for nearly 5 years now. It's a delivery company that sends you fresh food and all the ingredients you need to cook delicious meals at home, along with very easy to follow recipe cards. They have over 90 recipes every week, so there really is something for everyone. And so many of their recipes I've returned to again and again because their meals are just delicious. I've got a referral code. I've shared it with so many of my friends. It means they get cheap groceries on their first few boxes and I get credit in return. I'll link it below. Use it to sign up and you get a pretty hefty discount off your first box. There's no subscription required and you can order just one box whenever you want. As someone who has ran a marathon in every official country in the world, who has ran the entire coast of Great Britain, why is it that we find ourselves at your home here, settled down in Newquay, Cornwall?
Yeah, I could be living on a lovely tropical beach somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, couldn't I?
What comes to mind immediately?
Immediately, the answer is this has always felt like home, even though I'm not from Cornwall. And I think there's a certain element to home is not really a place ever. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, but it's absolutely true. I think home is where you feel settled, comfortable. You can be your very true self without having to be anything else. I've lived in cities, I've lived other places, and the calmness of the coast is what I need. And I think Matthew Perry put in his book recently that he always needs a body of water to look at, whether it be a lake or an ocean. And there's a wonderful book also by Lucy Jones, who writes about, it's a book called Losing Eden, and it's about how water is a body of water, moving body of water is this calming presence for human beings. And it's science. It's not, it's not just kind of, wishy-washy. It's real. And I think I definitely get that for me. I love to surf. I love to be by the coast. I love to be able to look out and see the sky rather than some concrete. I've been coming to Newquay as a kid in our camper van with the family. And then parents bought a place. I bought a place. Cornwall started to become home. And then I was here living in the van post travels. And I just realised I still felt at home here, and I probably will live in other places in the future. But here is definitely where I feel. It's not happy. It's not kind of settled. It's not that feeling. It's stable. This is kind of grounding, and I think that's it. Barefoot, walking on the beach in the mornings with the dog. Don't get that many other places, and being close to family. And to wrap up that very simple question with a long answer is I would probably be somewhere else in the world if it wasn't for the realities of having, my parents, my brother, friends. I don't need to live on the other side of the world because I can get there on a plane in a few hours. So I'm happy here.
Yeah, and you're the person to know where all these amazing places are.
True. Yeah, there's a few places.
There is some stunning coastline here. I've explored this area of Cornwall myself over the years. Newquay itself has got some incredible beaches, but also just north and south of here as well. Just the stretch of beaches here are amazing, like Bedfrutham Steps. I've had one of my top 10 favorite runs of all time on that beach at low tide when it's fresh sand.
Very low tide with the sand. Yeah. And that's actually a couple of days ago today is one of the lowest tides of the year. And you can walk all the way through there. From here, you can walk all the way through to Watergate Bay. So and you can get your feet slightly wet, but that's a long way.
Yeah.
So there's like 7-8 beaches all the way through there on the beach. It's wonderful.
Wow. Not a lot of people actually go down that stretch because it's hard to get to.
Yeah, very much. And all of that. But I think also Newquay's maybe I don't know if it's got or had a bit of a reputation for being a party town, stag do's, hen do's. And let's face it, the town centre is a bit shabby.
Many town centres are across the UK.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
They are. But we get the beautiful bits and I love Pentyre as well, where you look out over Fishdraw. That's where we were. And now being in central Newquay is great. We don't have to drive. Like we moved here and I think it was 7 weeks. I was just kind of in a hole working behind the laptop and running every day. And I didn't move the cars. We didn't have any need to do anything other than walk out our front door. So I love Newquay and I don't think, many other places will come close.
And it's interesting you say about having family and being rooted here. It's a very human aspect of anyone who thinks that they could live a better life elsewhere. There's always a detachment from what you have actually built in your life or what exists in your life here.
Yeah, I would love to live. I want to live on Vancouver Island. I'd love to live up anywhere in British Columbia, in the hills, in the mountains, in the forest. I was going to say like Ted Bundy then, but that's not quite what I mean. In the middle of nowhere cabin, that's dreamy. But then, of course, my parents are both mid-70s, various ailments, and my brother's, a few hours down the road. It would be a bit selfish, but I mean, I've done lots of trips that can appear a bit selfish, but it's more that I want to be around them and close by. And if I want to go to Vancouver or BC, I can do, but I can come back. So, as I was saying to you just before we started chatting here, is I've not been home for more than 10 days in the last 4 months. So this is home and will always be home, but I don't often spend too much time here either because I'm traveling all the time.
Yeah. You've been away from Newquay during the summer, which I suppose is busy, crazy months.
Yeah.
Is that a plan of yours just to escape this part of town?
I think anyone living in Newquay makes that a plan. If you live in Newquay for long enough, you realise get out in the summer.
But you get to experience it for the rest of the year, and when when very few people are here. Yeah,
this is my favourite time of year. Yeah, it's crisp, it's beautiful blue sky. So yeah, very very pleased to be here.
Well, it's interesting to hear about the balance you have about having a rooted, grounded life here in the UK, but knowing that you can go and do these amazing experiences across the world. You yourself have lived 1,000 lives already through your own adventures. And so some of the headlines are obviously when you decided to run a marathon in every single official country in the world. An adventure, a challenge which took, I suppose, was it over 2 years?
So 674 days at 23 months. Yeah. That was one hell of a journey.
You've also ran the length of Italy.
Yes.
During COVID at the time, a very unique set of circumstances that allowed you to do that because Italy got COVID first. And when you were over there, you had, when everyone else was going into lockdown, they kind of opened up a little bit. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it was in the middle ground between the COVIDs, if you like, because remember everyone was coming out of lockdown and we thought it was over and then it wasn't and it got worse. But obviously at the time, you don't know there's going to be a second wave. So that middle gap, that was when we were there. Very, very lucky. And my experience of COVID is unlike many, because I was running 100 marathons in 100 days, top to bottom of Italy, seeing a country that's just come out of lockdown. It was also probably the only time when, unless you go back hundreds of years, where it's been this quiet, because it was just wonderful. There wasn't people on the roads. There wasn't, thousands of tourists around so I got to see beautiful parts of Italy. And I also learned that actually there's quite a lot of not so beautiful parts in the south. So yeah, that was a very strange time. And then I was stranded in the Alps afterwards for several months, living in the mountains in ski season. And I'm an avid skier, and there was no lifts, so I was ski touring, living out of an igloo every now and then, being in the chalet, going to the igloo, ski touring I only had one dog at the time, got two now, one dog. And it was just, a very, very wonderful time. I didn't experience lots of suffering or heartache like many people sadly did.
You were incredibly lucky to be in the right place at the right time to do an adventure like that when everyone else was confined to their very much local area and couldn't drive and couldn't travel to that extent. But also, it's not just luck. You were bold enough to plan an adventure like that, and it just so happened that you landed at a time when you could still do that, and you made that position for yourself.
And I did make it for myself, but I certainly think this example was right place, right time. I could have very easily planned it a few weeks later, and things just not quite aligned. 100 days to run north to south, that's a very specific amount of time. And as it happened, as we were driving north through Italy, having finished the trip, so southern Sicily was the finishing point, and we were driving, I think about like 30 hours or something, all the way back up to the Alps. And as we were driving up the regions, I think there's 9 or 11 regions of Italy, they were individually closing behind us, as in saying, we've gone back to red, we've gone back to lockdown, literally as we were leaving. So I'd love to take the credit and say that it was carefully planned, but it was absolutely luck in that instance.
Sounds like something out of like a blockbuster film, like an action film. Like you try and go through the night when the country's locking down behind you. That's another one of your adventures. Another one you did famously is running the coast of Britain in a world record time. You're also someone who's now taking people around the world and sharing some of the experiences that you've had and opening it up to people through your run weekends.
Yes, I'm very proud of that. And it's been a very organic, true way of creating a business, which I'm very pleased with. I wasn't going to create a business that just makes money and money pours in and I sit back behind a laptop working away and then I retire. It's a business. Run Weekends is taking people away, trail running holidays, retreats, whatever you want to call it. It's groups of about 20 people, and we have 43 destinations all over the world, and it's about running, having fun. There's no pace, there's no medal, there's no race, there's no timing chips. It's just a bunch of runners go somewhere, have a good time for anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks, depending on where we are, hopping from mountain huts in the mountains or staying on beautiful beaches in some of the most remote places in the world, and have a brilliant team. And it's all come about because I did this thing where I ran around the world, then I did a few other things, and then I've got people knocking on my door saying, well, you got to take people away and do this kind of thing as a business. And for 2 years or so I was like, no, I've got my own stuff to be doing, and then I realized there was a bit of a niche, and actually there's an awful lot of we had a running boom. Remember, COVID sparked all of this brilliant revolution of runners, and I'm really proud that I'm part of that community, but fortunately there was a lot of people that have done a lot of races like me and actually don't want to race anymore, just want to go and have a good time. So it was a perfect storm. Perfect place, right time, and it's now been going for many years, and I'm loving growing it. And as I say to everybody, the good thing about having a job, what was it, Confucius said it, if you find a job you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. And I work hard, I work long hours, it never feels like a job, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that, because I could just be sat behind a desk earning some other people money.
Yeah, I do want to talk about this actually, and I'm not sure whether we touch on it now actually, but I also want to unpack so much from those headlines, and we'll go into more detail, I suppose, on all these specifics, especially as well your kind of transition of your life that's enabled you to do these amazing things now, because that all started from like a very bold, adventurous step many years ago, which you had no idea what path that would take you on. So it'd be great to retrospectively look back on this change. Before we do, I want to ask you something. You are renowned, or I suppose people believe that you are someone who has this great geographical knowledge because you've been to every country in the world.
I think I might know where you're going with this.
And are you the person who, when it comes to a pub quiz, when it's a geography question, they all turn to you and expect that you're going to know every single bit of detail about every single country because you have been to every single one, even though really when you actually peel it back, you've only ever done a tiny slice of this entire globe, but so much more than any of us.
Oh, I agree. It pains me, a pub quiz or any geography question or anything about a flag or currencies or what kind of plug socket somewhere has. Everyone expects me to know everything. I can't even remember the names of the countries, let alone what the countries were like. If you said to me, right, name as many countries as you can, I'd probably get to 30. There's nearly 200 and I've been there and I still don't know them. So there's an awful lot of misrepresentation of my knowledge. But no, I've got, what I think I do have is an understanding of the nations, of the peoples, of what it feels like to be in those countries or in those cities within those countries. But no, I'm very aware. And that was the profound thing that happened a few months after finishing that trip was I've been everywhere, but now I realize how much I haven't, how many places I haven't been to. And that's just, there's many, many more. I could have 1,000 lifetimes and you're not going to, truly 1,000 lifetimes, you're not going to go to everywhere on earth. And that's quite kind of, arresting when you think about that. There's cities in Russia, in China, in India that have more people than we have in our country in one city that we've never heard of.
Never heard of them, yeah.
So, or could probably spell or pronounce or even be able to know how to get there. So the world is a beautiful, massive place. And yet when you've gone to every country, you feel like it's just this tiny little thing that you can hop around on, and planes become buses, and, immigration stop-offs just feel like another tiny thing on the day. We don't think about it. Very blasé in airports now. And yet there are still so many places that I haven't been to, which I intend to do as many as I can, not because I want to just do as many as I can, but because there's just so much to see. That itch is never going to be fully scratched, I don't think.
That's interesting. Yeah. So much of the world you have seen, but so much more to see. I suppose it's just trying to make that exploration of the globe now something that is not going to be as traumatic as those 2 years where you were on one of the most complicated logistical challenges of your entire life, trying to work out effective travel to each and every place. And I heard you say, because if you spent one day longer in every country, it's 196 days extra onto that itinerary. So the logistics of this would have been an absolute nightmare.
It's like 8 months extra if I just spend an extra one day in every place, which is mad. The same goes for the finances. So the logistics of that trip, to give you the headlines, I mean, we were expecting to spend about £100,000. We thought maybe about 120 flights, and maybe I would need about 3 passports. We ended up spending £1 million, filling up 9 passports and using 455 flights. That basically illustrates how much we got wrong, how much we under budgeted, and how much everything just went out the window. The logistics of that mission were the mission. It's not the running, it's not anything else. The logistics were the challenge. That was everything that we had to do. Unfortunately, as I put it, I was the monkey in the shoes. I just put my trainers on and went and ran, and I had a brilliant team doing the majority of the rest. It did take me 2 years of more or less full-time planning in order to get to the start line. But that then sparked everything else. And like you say, I now have this kind of internal list of all the places I've been to, kind of scouted, and now I want to go back and explore more. In fact, one is a good example is Kosovo. I went to Kosovo as part of my world trip and expected that I'd probably never be back in Kosovo. I mean, why would I? Right? It's just another place. I didn't really know about it before. And now with Run Weekends, we take people there every year, and I've got friends there. I can walk around without having to use a map. I'm familiar with it. I understand what that nation is like, and it's not just one city. I've been all over the country. And so that I'm very grateful for, because it's opened up so many doors that I can, more or less, if you name a country, there might be somebody that I know there, and there's certainly somebody that I know that will know somebody there. That's almost a guarantee, and therefore the world feels very welcoming.
Yeah. Barring any kind of country that has, political unrest or is at war, do you honestly believe that you could go back and take a group of people to every one of those countries and actually facilitate something?
Absolutely.
That's an amazing kind of
absolutely
standing to have, to know that you've planted these roots all over the world.
Yes,
you've got contacts.
Strange.
You must be a very valuable asset to anyone who wants to know anything about setting up something like this in any country. You've got people on the ground all over the place.
That's true. Yeah, there's lots of very good people out there, and this is the element of, and I think anybody that's listening to these words that has travelled will know that travel just is all about the currency stops becoming money and starts becoming people. People are everything in my world, and I rely on a lot of kindness. I rely on a lot of people giving me their time more than anything. If you said to me, Nick, I want to go to Mozambique, where should I go in Mozambique? I can send a WhatsApp to somebody, they'll drop me a message back, we can have a 20-minute conversation, and all of a sudden you've got a contact. You're not going to be ripped off when you get there with a taxi, because you've got somebody to ask. Little things like that make so much difference. So you arrive knowing exactly you're going to be looked after, what you're going to be getting yourself into. So I'm very, very, and I didn't realize that was going to be the case when I set out. I just went on this wonderful mission, and I experienced kindness everywhere. And that was my one word, actually, was, if I could sum up the whole 674 days of running a marathon in every country in the world, the word is people. People made everything possible. And I'm eternally grateful.
So looking back now, and from your experiences, what does it say to the headlines that we see in the news and the perceptions or the connotations we might have of certain countries, and what you actually fully experienced by being in them?
Yeah, you can live your life through a screen, which is where we all get our news or our expectations of a location from. If I say to you, Iraq, Afghanistan, Russia, Ukraine, you have all these images in your mind of what the place is like, of what the government might be, of what you can and can't say, if people are suffering or not, how rich the country is. You have immediate connotations, and everything that you've experienced, unless you've been there, has all been lived through a screen, or through second-hand stories, or fourth or fifth-hand stories in some instances. And so traveling to every country in the world without any exceptions, every single country surprised me. Because let's say I was landing in the Bahamas. What's the image of the Bahamas? White sand, beautiful weather. It was torrential rain. So even just, forgetting about the political elements or anything like that, just the expectations of a place doesn't necessarily match up with the realities of day-to-day life living there. If I say Damascus, Syria, you might think war, buildings falling down, tanks rolling through. I turned up and I was running around the central stadium in Damascus with the under-19s national female football team, and we were having a laugh, and then we went to a lovely restaurant and had some dinner and went back to my beautiful old town hotel. It was nothing like you would expect on the news. So I think my general message to people that see stuff through news and maybe aren't as privileged to go and see all of these places is, do take it with a pinch of salt. Because yes, there are places that need help. Yes, there are places that are war-torn. But there's actually a brilliant book called Factfulness by Hans Rosling. And I've read it a couple of times. And it's just about the facts of the world and how we're living at all times, we are living in the best version of the world, because we are evolving and we are learning, even though there's all sorts of horrendous things going on. And we have, for example, 2 million under 5-year-olds in the world starve to death every year. 2 million under 5-year-olds die because they haven't had enough food. 2 million kids. That's horrendous. However, there is so much going on in the world that is better than it has ever been. If we go back year after year after year, that number is only higher. So we are improving the world just by collectively as a species, as humanity, trying to do our bit. And that definitely shone through in all the places I went to.
It's interesting as well, because I think also pictures and news can have a long-lasting effect in our minds on a place as well. So even when places have come out of war, they change, but we still see those images of what countries are, and that can have a lasting effect on a country and its brand.
And not just the country and its brand, but how the rest of the world interact with it for decades. And that is something, and I really would stress that this lovely book, I have no affiliation with it, but this book, Factfulness, it was a father and I think father and daughter, or father and daughter-in-law, and they now spend their lives educating governments on the real facts of today's stats about other places, and also corporates, because we live our life basing what we do on the past and stats that exist from the past, but it's not the same as now. And it's quite a profound thing when you think about it, because we can talk about Africa and we know it as, let's say, poor. And there's other places where you would think are more affluent, if I said Switzerland or whatever, Scandinavia. The reality is that the world that we live in now is not the world that we lived in yesterday or 10 years ago. And I think there's something to be said about waking up to that. And there's so many wonderful places out there that have evolved. And actually, I used Kosovo as an example not so long ago. And Kosovo, from when I first went there 6-7 years ago to now, drastically changed, and it's nowhere near. And Bosnia, in our lifetime, there's been unrest, and now it's quite the opposite. So I'm an advocate for going and seeing it with your own eyes. If you're fortunate enough to see it with your own eyes, and that will give you the real picture of what it is today.
Just jumping in briefly to say, if you've got this far, you're probably a fan of the show. And it would be great if you wouldn't mind confirming that love by following or subscribing to this podcast. It takes just one click from you, but it really does make a huge difference in getting more people to find this show. Thank you. Well, your knowledge of the world must be quite sought after, or at least expected, when perhaps you know actually very little about this world, which recently came into light when you appeared on a BBC reality game show of sort, a reality program. What was it defined as? Destination X.
Big Brother on wheels, can we say that?
Yes.
That's pretty much what it was. I mean, it was pitched as Race Across the World meets Traitors, which I think is not far off, but I think Big Brother needs to be thrown in there, because we had a diary room. We were living in close proximity with each other. Yeah, so Destination X, BBC TV show, 10-parter. I was invited to do it a long time ago. And
you were invited because you fit a certain kind of agenda, I suppose, of what you might bring to a diverse group of people of their knowledge of the world, right?
Yes, I think so. The show is about working out where you are, and you're on a blacked out bus traveling around technically the world. In this instance, series 1, we were in Europe, and you do a series of challenges and you have to work out where you are and put an X on a map at the end of the episode, and if you're furthest away, you're eliminated. So I quite like the concept, and I had no idea until you go into the game itself and you've started filming really what you get yourself into, which I also quite enjoyed. And yes, so there was the expectation that I believe I was cast as part of this show, because obviously lots of people applied and I was asked to be on it. I believe because they wanted me to be the idiot that has been to every country in the world but has no idea where he is.
Well, I don't. Well, maybe I think they thought that you might have not an upper hand, but that's what you could bring. So they also had like a taxi driver, for instance, who had learned the knowledge, and you get that kind of mindset. And I think it was having different mindsets. You had someone, I think it was a nuclear physicist as well,
and a pilot. Yeah,
pilot. Yes.
Yeah.
So you had people who kind of came from all these different backgrounds, which had certain skills which maybe could feed into how they could either do challenges or how they might know about the world. I don't think they cast you to be an idiot.
No, well, it could have been. It could have been. I mean, that might have been if I was casting for that show, I would have cast me as he thinks he knows where he is and we're going to trip him up and show that he doesn't know. Because that's great telly. But it turns out that for some, I'm not going to ruin it or any spoilers, but for a good chunk of the show, I did know where I was. And so...
Oh, interesting. I don't think that fully came... Well, I suppose it did come across. So yeah, let's not make any spoilers for this. I highly recommend people go and watch it. It'll be on iPlayer. I've seen it all, and it is the first series. So you didn't really know what was going on because you'd not actually seen the previous series. So this was all new to you as well. And I think that's kind of unfortunate part of being on the pilot kind of first season of some kind of like quiz show of some sort. But you did get dumped out in certain locations, but that wasn't necessarily where you were finishing. And sometimes you'd be looping around and not knowing if you were going in one direction or not. But why I bring this up, because you had a target on your back, I think. I think people, first of all, were threatened by you because you had been to every country in the world. And for you, they felt that you had some kind of advantage.
Incorrectly. Add, but yes.
Yes, because you'd seen a tiny slice of the world.
Yeah.
We've kind of covered that. But also, I loved how you played the game and you weren't afraid to show it. And... little things like looking out the window to see which direction the sun was. They caught onto that, and they were kind of like confused. It's like, well, should I be calculating that? But you would,
yes, little things like that. So just for anybody that's not watched it, you're on a fully blacked out, souped up bus. We live on it. It was filming for about 6.5 weeks. There's a chunk of time.
Oh, that's significant. I thought it might have been shorter.
No, wow. Chunk of time. And bearing in mind, you have a good 6 months of various steps. Psychological assessments, because the BBC and the production company 2-4 are trying to look after you, and so you have to go through all of that process, and then you get on the bus, and then you're told really what you're doing, because it's the first series, like you say, so they don't know what they're doing. So for anyone that's not seen it, blacked out bus, and then it's electronic windows. So every now and then those windows go from opaque to transparent, and you can see where you are for a very short space of time. You then do a series of challenges, which are largely off the bus in the new locations. And there's 13 contestants. I was one of them. And we're trying to win £100,000. If you win this game, it's £100,000. And I went on the show very overtly, said this to the production and said this to the cast, that it was just a good opportunity to get some good exposure. I wasn't expecting to win £100,000. I very much expected that anybody else on the bus would have much better chance than me. But I'm going to go and do it. It's a good experience, and my philosophy is say yes to things. So see what happens. And
that's interesting. I got the impression that you were there to win.
It was absolutely there to win.
I felt like there's a competitive element to you that were like, okay, well, this is a game. I'm playing the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody that knows me and has discussed it with me before I went on the show, and there's a very small amount of people because I wasn't allowed to talk about it with anyone. They all know that I wouldn't have gone on it if I didn't think I could win, but that's not why I did the show, if that makes sense. So as soon as I was going to do it, if I'm committing, then I'm in. I'm fully trying to win the show. Absolutely.
What I found interesting though is that you didn't hide that part of yourself.
Yeah,
you were quite. You said it out loud. And there were parts of it where I was watching. I was like, oh my god! Like, if you know stuff, or if hide it, or hide that version of yourself which is being competitive.
Yeah, and that might have been a good idea. But I also very aware, and I think until you're in the position, you've got 25 cameras on you at all times. Remote ones, static ones. You've got microphones in your bunk bed. You've got microphones on you all the time, 24/7. If you are hiding stuff, it's going to come out. And I was very happy just to go and be very real and go, look, I'm really lucky to have done all this stuff. I've been to every country in the world. You think I probably know more than I actually do, but I'm going to give this my best shot. And like, for example, explaining to the rest of the bus that, yeah, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, rises through the southern sky. Roughly this time of year, we're going to be, et cetera, is a good way to work out roughly where you are. And every now and then on a beautiful blue sky day, you could see where the sun was through the blacked out windows, just about. And that for me was the biggest clue of the whole game. If we're traveling for 6 hours and the sun's on our left the whole time, we're going in one specific direction, and working out roughly how long.
So if the sun's on your left, that means you'd be heading west?
Rises in, well, it depends on a number. It depends what side of the bus you're sitting as well. But that was just an example. So if you're traveling forwards and you're looking out one particular side of the window, and also the time of year makes a difference, so you have to take that into account. But knowing that the sun rises through the southern sky, so at 12 o'clock midday, generally speaking, and you're looking out the window and the sun, it's 12 o'clock, that's south. That's the marker ish. And so okay, the sun is south. If we're going this way, then we're going west. Simple as that.
So the show had lots of clues, and they had some challenges where you kind of saw clues, but some of them are red herrings, which is actually really confusing, especially as a viewer as well. I couldn't quite understand what was going to be, because sometimes there were things which led up to what turned into the final, and you're like, well, hang on, I thought that was initially a red herring, and then suddenly it was planted for the final. But you've said that you most of the time knew exactly where you were.
Not exactly, but I, with the exception of, and I'm not going to spoil things, with the exception of a couple of key locations, I knew broadly where I was. And the good thing about this game is you don't need to know where you are. You need to not be the furthest away on the map. And so there's the other half of the game, quite possibly the biggest part of the game, is the psychological game with your fellow contestants, is that if I know 2 or 3 people's where they're going to place their X on a map, then I just have to make sure that I'm somewhere in the middle, perhaps, because that means I can't be the furthest away, for example. So there was a lot of tactical playing, and I think some of the cast, some of the, my bus mates, as we call them, they probably didn't cotton on to that immediately, and they were just trying to put the X exactly where they thought they were, which to me wasn't always the wise move. So I think I played it relatively smartly, but there was a lot of targets on my back. And I very much enjoyed that target.
I loved watching it as well. Yeah,
it was good because everyone was trying to get rid of me from almost the word go, and I was expecting that to happen, not in a big-headed way, but if you know somebody's been to every country, all of a sudden you think, right, we'll get rid of him, and then I think they understood that I was playing the game quite well, and so it was right. Let's team up on him and get him out.
Yeah, you're unfortunately quite an asset as well, though, because sometimes there was team play where you were joined to work together with people.
Yeah.
Let's say the 2 of us were on a team, I knew I'd have a better chance of getting through to the next round. So to keep you in the game was actually more of an asset than to try and get rid of you.
Yeah.
But there's this kind of like, when do you get rid of someone, or when do you try and get rid of someone? I think someone, and a spoiler alert here, someone tried to get rid of you and it failed.
Someone tried to get rid of me in, a very drastic way, and it did fail. And this is the other thing I will also say, when you're filming this show, when you watched it on telly, I was watching it on telly too. That's the first time we see how everything is made, because you're only aware of your own conversation. So you don't know really, you believe you know what's going on around you and what's being said in the diary room by other people, because we're in that booth talking about the day for hours and hours every day and whatever makes it on the telly. But the other way of looking at it is that there was a few weaker players on the bus that I was desperate to bring along with me. And so there was a lot of telling a certain number of players the locations, because I wanted them to be in the final with me. That was the plan.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't want a strong person in the final with you, do you?
Oh, interesting.
So
that's incredible gameplay. Yeah, it's getting them on your side and then stabbing them in the back.
Stabbing them in the back, yeah. And that's part of it. And I think I was very lucky. And to be fair, and I've got to give credit to the casting folk, because they cast all of us very well, because we were very different people, all of us. There was definitely some butting of heads frequently on the bus with lots of people, but we knew that at the end of the day, we will human beings and we're all okay. Everyone understood that at slightly different times. But I think as soon as each of us show compassion to each other, then we go, okay, yeah, fine. These aren't nasty people I'm with on a bus. They're just trying to win £100,000 too. So that was quite good. And we still have a WhatsApp group. There's even messages today. We're still chatting with each other.
That's lovely to hear, yeah. For someone who has travelled the world and got out and been active in it, how frustrating was it to be in a bus where you couldn't see it and interact with it as you would have liked, and for such a long period of time?
This was a very unique challenge to me, and nobody else on the bus experienced this. I found it very difficult to be in a closed space, and it was a very, and I'm not dissing the show, but it was at points a bit dehumanizing, because you don't get to choose when you go to the toilet because you're filming. You can ask, but you can't just go to the toilet. You have conversations and you have to repeat conversations. You can't choose when you go to sleep. You can't choose various things. So that was a challenge. Then you throw in long filming days, going to bed late. You're a couple of weeks in, you're sleep deprived. And I would be running every day in normal life. And all of a sudden I'm cooped up like a caged animal, not being able to get my therapy. My therapy is my running, my time to mentally do the filing and kind of close down the day and reignite another day. And you don't get to do any of that. So there was plenty of times where I just kind of go and sit on the toilet with the toilet seat down, just kind of having a little moment to myself, because that was the only little space that you had. Everything else was filmed. Even in that moment, I couldn't even just whisper things under my breath because you still have your microphone on. So you have to be very aware. And I thought I would be better than I was, if I'm honest. I thought I would cope with being in a bus better than I did. I've lived in a van. Small spaces don't bother me, but it was the social element, you're with 12 other people that you wouldn't otherwise be with, and you're trying to win £100,000, and you're also trying to be nice. You're also trying to come across on telly as not the nasty person, which I'm not nasty, but you're trying to win £100,000, so everything can be edited. So the whole show was a gamble to do in the first place, and I'm very glad I did it. But I feel like I very much flipped that coin, and it's come out the right side that I was expecting, but it could have gone the other way. So it was a whole challenge, and I loved the experience, but at times it was very hard.
Well done, because hearing actually about it, I assumed maybe for financial reasons this could have been shot over like 2 weeks, and every episode was like filmed in one day. It was just to save on crew and but to hear it actually spans
long time, and a lot of money spent. One of the most expensive, millions and millions of pounds to film that. 200 crew were on the road with us. 200.
Wow, that's what you don't see. Yeah, you see 2 coaches for you, and then that's it. And Rob Brydon comes on.
And Rob Brydon comes on and does a few bits. But no, yeah, there's everything from makeup to not makeup, sound, to all the camera guys, to all the catering staff, because we couldn't just have food in a restaurant because we were hidden. Where you were, yeah. And we couldn't even have a Kit Kat because they'd have to take it out of the wrapper because it would have the language of the Kit Kat on the Kit Kat. So all little things like that were really, there was times where I would have, had I not been filmed, I would have been very grumpy with a lot of crew and cast, because it was just so difficult to keep a level head throughout that process. But yeah, I've got to take my hat off to them. They did a very good job for a
Was there
first
anything
series.
that slipped through the net that you did actually kind of find a clue outside of the game? You talk about these rappers on like food. Does something like that ever come across? Or
you're trying to search for everything,
like the crew telling you something or anything like that?
Oh no, the crew. No, nothing like that.
Because something could just slip up, and they wouldn't realise,
I think there were lots of little slip-ups, very, very little. Every now and then you would try and kind of have a glance at one of the crew's watches, because we obviously didn't have any idea of time. So I was trying to work out, is it midday to look at the sun? That kind of thing, because you just had to perceive that. You didn't have a watch. So no, that was it.
That's what I loved about you in this game, is that you were trying to find these extra things that people weren't looking for. People were just sitting there doing the challenges and then just expecting that, but you were searching for all these little extra things, and it came across in the show, and I absolutely adored that about you.
Thank you. I think it
Very clever.
It rubbed people up the wrong way on the show, but I think largely the public have taken to that very nicely. And I had lots of lovely people coming up to me and saying it was quite good fun. So yeah.
Great. Well, you talked about how this is a door that's been opened for you by people approached you to be on this show. This is a great way to now to look back at this life that you have created for yourself, where you went through quite a significant change in your own world and in your own career. That started from the very inception of wanting to run a marathon in every country in the world. And then completing that was a grand feat. But I don't think you really knew what the path laid for you afterwards, other than maybe writing about it and talking about it. But now looking back, we can see, you've done more challenges. You've written incredible books. You've appeared on a BBC reality game show. And all of this, you were a guy who just worked a regular 9 to 5. Yeah. But you've kind of now created this. Can you kind of see now these pathways and what that, and how you were able to do that?
Yeah, I think the answer is, and I can't not include this in my answer to that question, which is that I'm very lucky in life to have parents, family, stability. And, I stand up in lots of schools, in corporates, and I share my journeys and my philosophy that we have this tiny amount of time on the planet and that it's our responsibility to live it to the fullest. And that doesn't mean just spending all your money and going on a trip and then you come back and you're broke. It means doing what you love more, whether it's spending time with your dog or your cat or your kids, doing that kind of thing. And I stand up and I say this, and I fully appreciate that not everybody can do that. So I'll give that as a caveat first of all. And I was in a 9 to 5. I had a successful job, earning a decent amount of money, mortgage, house, car, etc. And I could see my life ahead of me. I was definitely drinking too much as well. That was a reality. Lots of wine. And I thought, right, well, yeah, I met this guy in Kevin Webber, who's got his own story himself, and he was the inspiration behind my world trip, who very sadly had prostate cancer. We met in a race in the Sahara Desert, and he dropped the bombshell on me that he was terminally ill, and he just gave me this extra little shove. And I describe it as all my life I've been kind of moving towards this cliff of adventure in my life. I've been listening to lectures about travels or wilderness trips, and I've been climbing, I've been running, I've been skiing, but I've always had a job. And I met this guy, told me that he was very ill. I then thought, yeah, I need to do something. And his words were to me, don't wait for a diagnosis. Don't wait for something to give you this kick to do what you love. And at the time, I kind of thought, well, I kind of am. I'm out here running in the desert with you. That's pretty cool. But the reality was, if asked, as he did for me, what would you do if you could do anything? I felt incredibly embarrassed, because a dying man is saying, look, you've got all the time in the world. What would you do if you could do anything? And I said, well, I don't know. I thought I am. But he was absolutely right. I wasn't thinking big enough. I wasn't thinking about anything I could possibly do. And so that's my general advice to anyone now, is that if you want to dream up something, don't put it in the confines of what is possible. Just dream it up and try and make it work. And so I left that race, kept in touch with him, and I wanted to do something to raise some money for people in his situation that were sadly dying of prostate cancer. And I wanted to do something to try and beat that cancer. And I Googled things. Do I want to go and run a few more marathons? I'd done lots of marathons by that point. Do I want to? And ultimately that led to a few weeks later me going, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to run around the world. I'm going to be the first person to run a marathon in every country. We're going to raise £250,000 for Prostate Cancer UK. I'm going to live by Kev's counsel. I'm going to enjoy the world as if I only have a couple of years to live too, because I have the opportunity to live more and this is my time. But that's not easy to make. That's not a decision you can just make if you don't have the support and backing and the backstop, if you like, of finance from family. If everything goes to pot, am I going to be supported? Am I going to be on the streets? The reality is I am going to be supported. I'm not going to be on the streets. So it's not lost on me that is definitely a big part of why I had the courage to do it. If you ask me, what's the biggest achievement in my life? It's not doing the trip. It's having the courage to try, because it's never been done. Why has it not been done? We put people on the moon. Why has nobody done this? It's probably difficult. And obviously now I know that it was quite difficult. So I'm very proud that I did that. And as you said, it sparked the rest of everything to come afterwards.
When you left your job, did you sell all your belongings? Was this because you were on the road now for a year or so onwards?
Yeah.
Did you completely just get rid of everything that you had rooted?
Yeah, it wasn't everything, but it was a lot. We needed cash. We needed some money to do this stuff. Property, shares, everything that I could get my hands on to make some cash. I wasn't just going to sell an old pair of shoes for 10 quid, but more or less anything that was substantial, we needed some money. So yeah, that very much went into it. And I also went into it wanting it to be like that. Anybody that's read Into the Wild with Christopher McCandless, who famously burnt a load of money and sold his stuff, just abandoned things and went off on this wild adventure in Canada. I wanted to do it that way because I wanted to feel all in, and I wanted to not have as much of a backstop. But the reality is, looking back, which I didn't really appreciate then, is that I had a massive backstop, which was a supportive family and friends, and enough in the bank that I wasn't going to be destitute. So, but I did go into it very much, this is everything I'm doing now, and I am not thinking about what happens if it doesn't work out. That didn't really go through my head, which I don't really know why. It's probably foolish.
Well, sometimes you have to be bold enough to force things to happen, and this journey wasn't going to happen by itself. It required an incredible amount of work and will to keep pushing when people were telling you no, to say yes, this can be done.
Yeah, there was a lot of that with sponsors, with trying to find the funding in the first place. There was, and I'm not exaggerating when I say over 10,000 emails were sent to brands, to people. I was already a runner, but I wasn't an established figure. And if you're very, very lucky, of those 10,000 emails, a few of them reply saying no. Otherwise, you just get ignored. And now, having done it, I've been in this world for a long time now. I understand how that works. But at the time, it's such a constant knock of spending hours and hours and hours asking, will you help me do this? Will you help me do this? And maybe someone says yes. And we had actually an instance where somebody did say yes. They were going to put 20 grand in. There was this bank in the UK called World First, and because it was a world first, and they thought, yeah, perfect. And I thought, brilliant, first big sponsor, 20 grand, it's better than nothing. And everything was going great guns. And then the guy who was my lead contact left the business, and I never heard from them again. And so that's the reality of getting sponsors, is that you just
got so close.
You're so close, and then it just fell apart, and that happens over and over again. So that was already a lesson in resilience, but before you even start the trip.
Coming back from the trip, you have this process of writing about it and talking about it, and everyone wants to hear about you. But then you have to then be like, well, what is my life now? So what was the thought process going into experimenting and finding different pathways?
Yeah.
You talk about it, you're a corporate speaker, you go into schools, you've obviously written about it and published that as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And actually, I don't have any recollection of thinking about what my career will be afterwards. It was, I don't want to go back to the bank. I don't want a real job. But the person that left to start the challenge and the person that came back having finished the challenge was two very different people. And I know that might just sound like a cliche or whatever. Fully different person from when I left. And I can't remember the old me, truthfully. I know that I had fancier cars and money in the bank.
You were a finance bro.
Yeah.
Before the phrase was
before the phrase was invented. Yeah, that's it. And I came back and I just didn't care, and I don't care about money and things, and it felt like I went on a very expensive 2-year kind of rehab from the finance world, because you come back and you go, I get it now. Like, I'm outrageously
Wow.
lucky just to be like just existing.
You have this wealth of experience
It
of
was so
speaking to
profound.
people all over the world, different cultures, different people living different lives and different forms of wealth as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of different ways that you can see it, but the fundamentals was I came back a very different person, a person that I liked, a person that I was happy to be, and that I was going to do anything to not go back to that old life. And it's very tempting, constantly tempting, because if we're thinking about if we want to do a renovation on the house or if the car's breaking down and you've got a bill to pay, it's like, well, it's frequently said from friends and family, well, if you had your old job, that wouldn't be a problem. Absolutely not. But I would be rich in a bank account, rich in money, but nowhere near as rich as I am in life now. And I'm so grateful for it. It's honestly changed my life and everything that I see in it. I've got my priorities right, and it's thanks to meeting Kev, my family, to give me that backstop to trying it in the first place. There's hundreds of people that facilitated it, and now I'm very lucky. So the answer to speaking and books, and it was to get back, do some press, write the book, see what happens. And in that process, I got itchy feet to do another challenge, and then the process repeated itself. So my life was in packages of plan a trip, do a trip, then go out and talk about it, share the journey, write the books, and skip ahead of quite a while. We're here and I'm still doing it, but I have a business and running has very much become life.
Yeah, and you spoke about how your perception of wealth changed, and you've lived this because when you came back, you lived in a van.
Yeah.
You had this very stripped lifestyle that went from this person in finance to just being a van life person, which is kind of very two contrasting worlds. And
Very
you
much.
kind of have this like story that goes in the middle of the two, which is really, really fascinating.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the reality is that I was probably always this version of me, but it was covered up. It was society and societal norms had kind of taken over that version of me.
You know what? There must be so many people listening to that who feel that way.
Yeah.
They've just gone through what they assume should be their path in life.
Yeah.
And realize, maybe 5-10 years down the line that actually this is not exactly what I want in my life to be. And they feel like there's still something within them.
And I think there's whoever said this phrase initially, I don't know, but you've got two lives. One, the latter begins when you realize you've only got one. And it's so true. And unfortunately for my mate Kev, he had that awakening after being given a terminal diagnosis. I was fortunate that I got that awakening without a terminal diagnosis, and I could then go and do loads of wonderful things and live it. And I'm very, very grateful for it. And I would urge anybody listening to take a couple of minutes to just think about, is it possible to do something else? Even if you're in a successful, great job and you don't have a backstop, but you could just take a year out, do what you love, spend some money, see some places. You don't even have to spend a lot of money. Just do what you love for a year. And then if all goes to pot and you need to get a job again, go and get a job again.
You can always slot back in.
You can always slot back in. It's not the end of the world. And we're on this kind of evil conveyor belt of I must always get the best phone, which we always do, get a better phone, a better laptop, a better car, a bigger TV. I must go to that popular tourist destination because everyone else is doing it. I must do X, Y, and Z. And actually it's, well, what do you want to do? I think it's very difficult for any of us to truly answer it because we're so swamped and corrupted by what we see through social media and other people's lives rather than our own.
Yeah, it's taking control, isn't it? It's not letting other companies or brands or society dictate what we do. That works for some people, but
the big one in most people's lives is your parents. Because your parents are living in especially for me, my parents were a little bit older than other parents. And they had a very much you get a good job and you work at that job until you retire and you get your pension and you're done. But there's, my godfather, he had a successful accountancy company, worked very hard, was very frugal, saved a lot of money, didn't take any risks in terms of, financially, was very stable, earned lots of good money. And then very sadly, after retiring and his great plans to do everything with his retirement, retired early, but sadly died a few weeks later. And that's, as soon as you realize that life isn't just going to keep happening, at some point, even if it keeps happening all the way up to 90, by the time you get to 60, you're probably going to be in a position where your body is not quite able to do what it was when it was 30 or 20. So do the stuff now. If you can, if you can, do it now. We've got the whole phrase of I love is your time is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not yesterday. Right now, you have an opportunity to do something. So if you're sitting at a desk listening to this and you don't want to sit at your desk, stand up, go outside, do what you like. Just 10 minutes. Just give yourself, be selfish in that moment, because we all have this one little moment of time, and I'm obsessed with trying to squeeze every ounce of it out.
You're doing a good job. It's very interesting what you say about parents, and just reflecting on my experience. I think my parents were never pushy, and in fact, almost they kind of left me to do things. But there were obviously certain influences, and my dad probably had 2 lines with a career. One was write a song, because you get royalties for the rest of your life. So that was kind of something he always told me. But the one he was more serious about was work hard at school, get a good job, a job that gives you a company car, that kind of work for a good company and they'll look after you. But it's but I don't want to work for that company. I don't want to do what they are doing. And I've had to go on my own experience. And we were talking before recording actually about our experiences at school, and I was very studious, and I've come out of academia with a degree in physics, and of course my mindset is very, very analytical. It's very much black and white, and I've had to train myself and my mind to see that the world is not like that.
Live in colour.
In the creative world as well, and there's so many creative pursuits that I still want to do on top of this podcast. And a lot of what I've been doing in probably the last 10 years is recalibrate my mind to stop thinking analytically and just be a bit more free.
And that's hard to do because society is not geared up for that. And the whole academic process of from the age of 11, 12, you're maybe 14, you're in that wheel of go and get some qualifications, some more qualifications, go to university, get some more qualifications, get a good job, then get a slightly better job, and then get a slightly better job, and then retire and die. And actually, that is the living bit right in the middle. And I wish you were told at school every single day, almost like as a mantra, is that everyone's making it up. No one knows what they're doing. Do what you enjoy. As long as you're kind to people, you're not being, you're not hurting anyone doing it, then why not? And again, not everybody has that opportunity. And I say this because not everybody has the opportunity, but if you do, I feel like it's almost a responsibility to those that don't to do something, rather than go, all right, well, I'm not going to go on that holiday because I can't quite save. So my argument is, rather than save more money, is earn more money, so then you can have do more things, or give it all up together and go and run around the world.
Take more risks.
Especially
when you're young.
Take more risks when you're young, exactly, because they're not really risks. They're risks at that point in time, but they're not really.
You're just finding your way in life.
Yeah.
And some stuff will work, some stuff will don't. I think really we should teach in school the sanctity of failure and making it a successful thing.
It's really interesting you say that, because I'm really big on this, and the whole concept that you either succeed or fail. In my philosophy anyway, failure is the pathway to success. You have to have failure to succeed. You can't just go to success. That's not how it works. And there's something I do when I visit some schools, and a lot of private schools, and we do a workshop, and it's around failure week. So we'll get kids to pair up, and let's say you're a rugby player and I'm a violinist, and we have a week they pair up and they have to learn each other's sports, or they have to learn each other's area. And of course you can't do that in a week. And so all of a sudden they get to do their thing, play your violin to me after a week of trying it. It's going to sound pretty awful and you're not going to be able to do it. And that's the whole point, is that you have to fail in order to carry on and learn and succeed. And I think especially in some very high paying, high academic private schools, failure is not something that's taught. It's not celebrated. And I think that is crushing our society and the world, because people are in fear of not getting it right.
Yeah, and the most successful people in the world have typically dropped out of school at an early age because they've had a lot more time to do stuff.
Yeah, we've got another decade of life to go and experiment with stuff and fail. Exactly.
And by the time we come out of university, they've figured it out.
Yeah. And university, you come out of university, you not only you've got a load of money to pay back, but you haven't had any time to fail. So it's like a double loss. So, I mean, obviously, I'm being a little bit blasé with my words, but academia has a place. In my mind, there's so many more things that can be learned from travel and failure.
So let's go back to this lifestyle that you have that has led you to now host these incredible weekends away around the world. You're kind of sharing your own adventurous spirits with other people.
Yeah, thanks. Run Weekends I'm very proud of. It is it's a wonderful business to own because, like I say to anyone that asks me, if I work on this for 30 years and it doesn't amount to anything, I don't sell it for millions, it doesn't become a successful company, I've still had a great time doing it. And that's the wonders if you can find that in a job. And that's what I'm doing. I've had many years now of taking people away, people that are probably a little bit, some of them anxious to turn up to these kind of things.
Give us a concept. What is like a typical run weekend?
Typical run weekend. So let me describe it. Let me use the Dolomites trip in Italy as a good example. This is a 5-night trip and we have up to 20 guests that come along. As soon as you arrive, we take care of everything. All food, all accommodation, everything that we look after you. We have a good team. And we arrive in a little village called San Candido in Italy. And we meet for a dinner, we get chatting to each other, we go for a little jog, and then the next day we pack our stuff all on our backpacks and we go up into the mountains. And for 3 more nights, we are hopping from mountain refuge to mountain refuge. If you Google, there's a Locatelli hut in the Dolomites, and that's one of the first huts that we come and stay in. It's a beautiful view over the Draisinan Mountains, the 3 peaks. And we do... what's the mileage? It's 17 kilometers on day 1, 13 on day 2, 17 on day 3, and 13 on day 4. Actually, it just happens to alternate like that. So it's not very big mileage,
but hilly.
It's very hilly. Very hilly. There's a lot of
hiking.
A lot of hiking. There's a lot of time sitting and panting and eating snacks on the way. And I mean, like this year, for example, we were singing songs every day. It was just it's a holiday for runners, but without any pressure to be there. You know, if I say to you, right, okay, we've got 17K to run, you say, right, well, let's allow maybe 3 or 4 hours and we can have a slow time. We allow like 8 hours because it's not about, we're using running as a vehicle to have a good time. It's not about going and racing it and zipping off in the distance. We all group together. There's always somebody at the front and always somebody at the back. That's the reality of a group of people. But the essence is that we run together, and if you're at the front, you slow down for the people at the back, and vice versa. And so everybody goes away with new friends, lots of lovely memories. The food is amazing as well. And I'm very proud of it because we've had every person that's been on that's left us a review. Touch wood, so far, we've never had a review that isn't 5 stars. And that is how I measure the company. I don't measure it on revenue or profit. It's all about, as every single person left,
it's the experience,
having had a good time, because that's all I care about, because I've had a great time running and they have as well. And if we can keep doing that for many years, then hopefully it will become a good company. So everything. We've got Dolomites, we've got Tonga, we've got Mongolia, Uganda, just put Japan live. Yeah, loads of places.
This really appeals to me because I'm not much of a racer in the world of running. I think I've only done 1 official marathon, a few halves, and I only really do some of the halves in London because all my mates do them, and it's just, if you don't do it, you feel left out. But for me, my ultimate kind of running day out, or let's say a weekend away is with a group of people who just want to be outside, experiencing the very best and as much outdoor activity as possible, and going exploring.
Yeah.
Seeing some of the world, seeing the natural wonders of the world, not just pounding pavement and having to stop at traffic lights and piss off pedestrians, is to be out on the trails and experience some of this glorious world.
And then you throw in the fact that you don't have to think about anything, the fact that you've got another potentially 20 other people there that are also in exactly the same mindset. I just want to come and have a good time. And we'll play card games in the evening. We'll go and watch the stars. We'll go and have dips in lakes. Like in Uganda, we go and see the chimps. We go on safari for 3 days. Like there's loads of other things around the outsides. It's a holiday plus running. And whether you call it a retreat or not, you're going to go away, hopefully, going, I've met some good people. I've seen the world, traveled, I've taken lots of lovely photos of me running in some beautiful places. And I think there's also a quiet kind of therapy element as part of it as well, is that actually everyone has their own story, and it's enough time to have a proper conversation. If you go to a city marathon, you don't end that marathon usually having met 20 people that their life story. A week in the mountains, you get to know people's trials and tribulations of their lives. So I'm very proud of it. I'm absolutely loving it, and I hope that we grow and grow and grow.
And do you do everyone?
At the moment, I have. Next year and the year after, I'm doing less because the business needs to grow. I need to actually spend some time behind the laptop and stop having too much fun. But no, we've got a great team. We've got a core team of about 9 of us and a satellite team of about 65 who help host all over the world. And they're all, as we said earlier, contacts of mine that have existed from running the world. And I've kind of nurtured those friendships, and they've now are involved in hosting the trips with me.
That's amazing how you've turned this experience into something that is kind of life lasting. It's not just something that's in the moment that just happened. You've kind of really captured it and celebrated it over time as well.
Yeah. And I think if I go to bed at night and I say to myself, am I proud of what I've done in the day? Am I proud of whatever that be? And some days it's a 15-hour day behind the laptop, but am I proud that I've done something that I can look back on? If somebody's looking down on my gravestone and he goes, yeah, he did good stuff. He left the world slightly better than he found it. And that's kind of why I keep getting up in the morning to do these things, is because it will put a bit of money in the bank, hopefully one day. Doesn't at the moment, but put a bit of money in the bank in the future. It will tick box for me to get outside, do running, meet people, photos, travel, everything like that. Plus, it's hopefully giving a little bit of a tick box to other people as well.
Yeah, you're facilitating and enabling people to have adventures who perhaps don't want to have to do 2 years of trekking around the world, but would quite fancy a short amount of time in a new place and somewhere.
Yeah,
it's well done. You mentioned about how you're proud of that. Another aspect, I suppose, that you're really also proud of is when you came back from the 196 countries and set up a foundation, this charity that you're continuing to raise money for in a very unique way, which I really admire. Tell us, break it down into actually how it works.
Yeah, thanks. I'm proud of the foundation. It's called the 196 Foundation. We ask for donations of £1.96 per month, and you can't give us any more than that. It's just a fixed figure.
That's a small amount.
It's tiny. It's on purpose.
Not even half a coffee. Yeah,
no, exactly. The idea is that when our donors are going through their bank accounts because they're trying to save for a wedding or an extension or whatever, and they go, oh, you know what? It's only £1.96. We'll keep that one. And I think it works. And our donors are growing every month and every year because of that, I think. But the key thing is I call it this democratic donorship model. We have people giving their £1.96 a month. They all go in the central pot. And every year we offer all of our donors the opportunity to vote on the project that we help. And it could be any project anywhere in the world. Generally speaking, we pick the 3 that go to the vote based on the funds that we have available, based on the diversity of options, and making sure that we can absolutely measure the benefit out of those. Some projects come to us and say, can you include us in our vote this year? And it's not quite perfect because we can't measure it very easily. And so we make a call on that. But three projects go to the vote, and then they get voted for over a couple of months. And and then the winner gets our support. And for example, last year was Kenya. Actually 2 years ago now, gosh, time flies. And we had 40 acres of land in Kenya that was empty, and we bought the land and we worked with a charity partner out there, and they turned that land into a farm, and they employ people to manage the farm, sell the produce for profit to employ more people, and then also build a school and feed a school as a result of that farm existing.
Wow.
And that's all from less than £24 a year for 1 year from individuals all over the world that are giving their £1.96 a month. So it's tiny amounts of money delivering huge amounts of change.
Yeah. And if everyone got involved, you'd have such a huge power to make change.
Huge. And then I'm hoping, and a big part of the next 5-year strategy with it, and I'm really proud of it, is to go down the salary sacrifice scheme with companies and ask companies, 10,000 employees would turn £40,000 a year of investment into £300,000 a year.
This is where you can now tie in all your experience in finance and your kind of past connections and contacts and experience in working in that industry to kind of bring it full circle and being helping out the world.
It's like we planned it. It's just all worked out rather well.
Synergy.
Synergy, exactly. I'm overwhelmed by the problem with my life is that there's too many things to do, and so I'm having to. I've got very, very fortunate that a lot of good people around me to help. And the foundation is entirely non-profit. The money that comes into this foundation doesn't go anywhere near me. So I'm really proud that it is this nobody gets paid anything to do with the foundation. It is all non-profit. I think there's a couple of pence on a platform fee somewhere. The rest is just all goes through it. So I also think that's a rarity in a lot of charities. There's a lot of money, you give money to a big charity, they have overheads, they have CEOs, we don't have that. We're volunteers. And at some point in the future, maybe we can't do that, but for the foreseeable, it is non-profit, and I'm very proud of that. And it's transparent. Every single penny, we show where it goes.
Yeah. Start small, but dream big.
Yeah. Start small, dream big. Maybe that's the theme of everything we've been talking about. And, if you're listening to this,
but you didn't start small. You start small. You started humongously big, and that's ultimately sometimes what you have to do to stand out in this world, is to do something that just seems impossible and make it possible.
Do the hard thing.
You are Mr. Possible. You've made these things happen through sheer will, grit, determination, by continuing to knock on loads of doors.
True. Yeah, and I don't fully give myself enough credit for that, because the word resilience sounds kind of fancy and intent. I think the reality is I'm just stubborn and a bit of a control freak that likes to get stuff done. And once you have that philosophy of you've got this tiny amount of time, then everything changes. You're like, no, I'm going to do these cool things, and I'm really proud of everything that we've done. But there's so many more. Do
you have an example of things that you've stripped away from your life that were distractions to this main goal?
Yeah, I suppose things. Let's use a good example. A car. Lots of people will pay several £100s a month to have a nice car so they can drive into a petrol station and get out and feel like people are looking at their car. I don't think that's a rarity. I think that's quite a popularity thing. My car is probably worth about a quarter of what my phone is worth. let's call it like £300. And it's a car I've had for years. I have absolutely no intent on ever having a fancy car because I just don't need it. So that's a change. This is a very simple, over kind of materialistic change in my life. The other one is time, and using my days. I clock all of my time I use in the day. So I use a little app, and I just
record. The app?
It's an app called Clockify. We're not affiliated to it whatsoever, but it's really great because you can just say, right, I've been working on the foundation for 3 hours, clocked it. Doesn't need to do anything else, but I can look back at the end of the week and go, right, I feel like I've been working really hard. How many hours have I actually done? And most of the time I'll give myself a little mental guess before I look at the number. I'll go, oh, okay. I've not done what I thought were 15-hour days. I've only done 10-hour days, and I could probably do a bit more. Or actually, maybe I'm working too much, and next week I'm going to take the dogs out for 3 hours on a run and not do so much time behind the laptop. So it's quite a nice way of just being aware of how I'm spending my time.
Yeah, this is very much the finance pro in you.
That's still not disappeared.
You have to register all your time that you're working on certain projects that are chargeable to a client. I've been in that world.
Yeah.
Every 6 minutes is.
Exactly. It all counts.
0.1 of an hour.
And it's also, and I want to be able to look back on it at the end of the month, for example, and go, right, next month I definitely need to prioritize more time surfing, or with my partner, or with the dogs, or seeing family. So there's that little bit of a check, but talk about analytical side of things, I can't quite escape that.
No, but that's beautiful though. But you're using the analytics to kind of provide color to your life, because the things that you're doing are actually important that aren't work.
And a framework, because without it, I'm just hopping from one project to the next, but I need to have that. Otherwise,
interesting. I feel like I need to do this in my life. And like you're talking about having lots of different projects and just working out where your time is. Probably I do. I would like something that's maybe more paper driven. I think there's so many apps out there that sometimes
keep a diary. I do keep a diary, and actually that's one thing I would say for anybody listening. If you don't keep a diary, start keeping a diary.
Just a run diary, or just a general diary?
I have a run diary separately.
Okay, of course you do.
Have a run diary. In fact, I'll show you my whiteboard. I have a very large whiteboard with all my miles on it. But no, the diary is just a handwritten. I've kept a diary for a long time. At the end of every day, write a couple of words down. Sometimes it's War and Peace if I'm in a foul mood, or if I'm in a great mood. But it's just a nice way to take a couple of moments to reflect on the day. And it gives you a bit of, the whole term of practicing gratitude, I think, is overused. But writing a diary is a way of doing that. It's being able to go, yeah, today was good. Today, maybe I did something I wasn't proud of. Tomorrow I'll change that. Just a little moment. And writing it down by hand, I think, also is a bit more human than app focused.
Okay. Yeah, I will look into that. I've got a load of notebooks recently, big, small, little ones that I've had them for years, but now I'm figuring out. Finally, a lot of things are falling into place in how I need to use them.
Okay, good.
And I'm using them a lot more, because I've just typically, in this one I've had now, I don't know, I've got no dates on. I'm really bad actually, but I reckon there's some stuff in the beginning of this notebook that was probably like 2 or 3 years old at least. Which
nice.
Is actually you need to be using it more often.
So you need to do some more work.
There's when I bought a tent, which was probably 4 years ago. I need to be using it more often. That I can. Oh, a courgette. You'll laugh at this. During lockdown, I was at my sister's and we planted some courgette plants, and I had a courgette harvest diary. I had 5 different plants, and I weighed every single courgette and the date that I picked it.
You mentioned your analytical mind. You're having to weigh each.
But that's 2020. So this is
5 years ago.
I need to be using notebooks more, so that it's only like 6 months perhaps, and I get through one and I buy another one.
Probably less. If you write a diary every day, you'll have stacks by 5 years' time. Yeah.
Well, that's my mission going forward. You talked about resilience, but another phrase or word I could probably use for you is the ability to reinvent yourself. You've gone through various editions. We talked about this at the beginning, and the 2 different versions of yourself that started your global trip and came back. But also within that, there's lots of other stories about how you were someone who was really into skiing, and then you found running, and you're in this running year at the moment. But I've also heard you say that might not be what defines you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. By the time, if I have children, by the time my children are my age, let's say my unborn children, I might be a poet. I could be a potter. I could be a sailor. I could be I don't know, anything. And that's, I think, not celebrated enough in schools. And that's why I sometimes rise against the academic system, because I think it narrows your pathways to a couple, if that. And actually, that's not, we're human beings. We're roaming around on this little thing floating in the universe. Do what you love to do. Maybe go, right, okay, for the next 3 years, I'm going to try pottery and try and make that work. And I think most of our decisions, certainly as adults, stem from, wouldn't that be cool? And then it gets squashed because your next thought is, we'll say it at once, money. Every time it's, I'd love to go and be a potter, but no, I couldn't do that because then I wouldn't have any money. I wouldn't be able to pay for things. I wouldn't be able to go on holidays. I wouldn't be able to go to the pub. And then you go, okay, I won't do that. But actually there is a way. There's a way to have balance. There's a way to do that. And I think pottery is quite a good example because I do love pottery. Not this one. This is not mine. Not that good. And I might do that in the future. I might just take a few years out. Might be forever out, you know? And I like that. And I think it should be celebrated more.
Yeah, having range, you never know where it will lead you in the future, but you can tie in, as you have tied in all aspects of your kind of past life.
Yeah, I still ski, for example. You know, skiing was my life. If you speak to my childhood friends, they don't know Nick the runner, they know Nick the skier, because I was skiing all the time. I was racing, I was competing. Skiing I had the Olympics on my goals. I was British, so I did have a little drawback.
Yeah, it's a shame.
No snow was definitely one part, but that was a genuine goal. And actually, in the back of my mind, I think about what I haven't achieved and I would love to achieve is to be in the Olympics. And that is certainly not going to happen for me in running. I can promise you there.
Where could it happen?
I have no idea, but maybe that's an avenue.
But well, this is an interesting
Curling?
concept, though. Oh, I would love to.
I'd love to do some curling.
In terms of talking about reinventing yourself, I would happily spend 3 years of my life just dedicating it to curling.
There you go. I think we found it. Stop the podcast now. Go and do your curling. But that's it. And would that make you happy? Would you be proud of it? Would you get to your deathbed and go, I'm really pleased I did that? Probably, by the sounds of it. So that's it. And doing things for the right reasons.
I suppose with curling, for me, it would be a bit like your run weekends. It's like, I'm not worried about what the kind of the end goal is in terms of like your business. It's just like, will I enjoy it on the day to day?
Exactly.
And I will. Just put me on a curling rink.
Exactly.
And I'll have the time of my life spinning these hurling these stones down.
You'd have to.
There's not a curling rink really like this side of Scotland.
I'm hearing obstacles. Take those obstacles away. Go and do it. But that's a good example. So skiing happened, real life work happened, which I tried. And actually it's a good point to make is that I'm very glad I tried it because I know that I don't want it rather than just flitting from one fun sport to another.
There is a caveat to this. This is not an excuse, but let's open this up to conversation and we briefly spoke about this before recording, is how, on various different creative projects of our life, had we known the amount of work that went into it, we probably wouldn't have gone down that path.
Yes.
And that's ultimately sometimes what you do. You go down a path and then suddenly you become stubborn and you continue going through, off the beaten path where it's completely overgrown and you're just slogging through mud, but you'll continue. And you will eventually get to the end, but it might take you 10 times as long and 10 times as energy and effort. I
think what you've just described is humanity, isn't it? That's being human. And if the more human something is, the more surely we should do it. So that's my philosophy on those things. If it is tough, and yes, most of the stuff, whether it's writing a book, whether it's recording the audiobook, whether it's starting a charity, even just starting that foundation took me months because it just didn't have
everything is new.
Everything is new. You have to learn. You have to fail over and over again. You have to get things wrong, and then I can speak about it now because of all that stuff I kind of forget that's in the past. But
it's a bit like the Destination X. You don't really see actually what's gone into every episode. That actually we see an hour-long TV that's like, oh, they just had a few conversations.
It's like 6 days of filming.
They did this fun challenge, but actually it was actually mentally very challenging. But also, that's the same with everyone's successes. They don't see all the journey of failure. They just see, oh, great, you made this amazing piece of work or something. And
I saw something on social media the other day, which was a post that Ricky Gervais put out, and he said, 27 years ago, I was made redundant, and so I decided I would give stand-up comedy a go. And he was 37 years old. 30. If I say Ricky Gervais to you, you do not think for the first 37 years of his life were working.
No one knew who he was.
And he was just and this is what I mean. You can like Rich Roll, great podcaster. He was 45, 42, I think, before he started his podcast.
That took him years to it wasn't successful initially as well.
No, exactly. That's it. If you keep loving it, then just keep doing it. And that's why I'm really proud to have run weekends and the charity, is that I enjoy doing them. And if it doesn't all work out, I'm still enjoying doing it. I think that's the thing. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased. And it's not all plain sailing. There's days when I'm banging my head against the wall, when I'm not getting it right, when people let you down, when things go wrong. And that's part of the journey too.
Well, it's incredibly inspiring hearing about the human aspect behind everything that goes into a lifestyle that you have, because I think people could just see your Instagram and just be like, oh, what an amazing life. But there's a lot of scrambling beneath the surface, which...
Scrambling is the word. Yeah. Just keep scrambling, keep fumbling through. Just try and do it with intent. That's the thing. Try and do it with intent rather than just wish away the days.
Is your life now a series of planning big challenges, spending time doing that, and then going off, spending time doing it, and then spending time writing and telling everyone about it?
The cycle is very much like that. Of late, with run weekends, that is a huge focus. That I would say that's 99% of my days. However, that little 1% there is now still ticking away, getting ready for future trips. I think I'll always have... I think always is the right word. I think I'll always have a project, an expedition in the pipeline.
It's an itch that you need to scratch.
Exactly. It's going to be forever.
You don't want to be on that bus, blacked out bus for...
Absolutely.
You've had that experience now.
I've done that one. Yeah, and that's it. And people say to me, oh, would you go and do that again? Would you go and do that? Yeah, there's lots of things I've done. I don't want to do them again. I want to do different things. So there's a few things in the works, which I want to go and run the PCT, which is a little project that's upcoming. That's about 100 marathons, 100 days. So similar to the length of Italy, but that's the west coast of the US from the border of Mexico up to the border of Canada.
Now, many people do that to do an FKT.
It's true.
Are you doing it just for doing it?
I'm not going to do an FKT yet. I'm going to hopefully make a lovely film about it.
Okay.
And do it very just kind of minimal. And enjoy it.
What do you think the heart of that journey will be then? If you're going to make a film, what do you think is the story?
I feel the heart will be the people that you meet along the way.
Okay,
It's a pilgrimage. It's very similar to the Camino. You know, I ran the Camino a couple of years back, and you meet people, the dirt baggers. You know, the dirt baggers. You got a bag on your back. You essentially, many of them are hiking for 6 months, maybe 8 months. I will be running it mostly because I don't have 8 months, and I will just go and do it quicker, and I'll use my mode of transport. But 100 marathons in 100 days, I'm fortunate that's very doable for me, and I will enjoy it whilst also doing it slightly quicker. And I want to I want to create a photo book out of it. I want to get some lovely visuals. That's something that I'm quite keen on. And I want to be able to look back on a 90-minute doc that we've made and put together and go, yeah, that was good fun. So that's something that's something in the pipeline. It's definitely a fun trip as opposed to a big kind of return on investment kind of thing. But it's also will be sponsored, and it will be a good entity. The other thing is I'm going to try and break. There's the big project that I've been working on for a number of years, and I'm going to try and break the record for the most consecutive marathons,
which currently stands at.
I believe, there's various numbers, but call it 260, depending on what form of medium you look at. Sometimes it might be 400, but that's unofficial. So 261 is the official number.
Okay, that gets you the record. That's 260 marathons in 260 days. One a day, basically.
Correct, one a day, yeah. And there's lots of people that have done more than that, but I don't think registered them. So my plan is to go and do 1,000 marathons in 1,000 days.
Just 4 times as many, nearly.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, why not? I thought I could do 500, and I thought 500 is not quite a round number. 1,000 is a round number, and it scares me, which is the main thing. That's the key ingredient of why it's never left my mind, of why I've been dreaming about it for a long time. The thing about running 1,000 marathons is that anybody that's done multiple marathons back to back will know after 8 weeks, the running bit is just autopilot. It's just like getting up and going to the gym and coming back again. It's sometimes a hardship. Sometimes you don't want to get out of bed and go and do it, but it's not going to
make it sound easy. After 8 weeks.
After
8 weeks of consecutive marathons, then
it gets easy. But when you've got 1,000 days,
right,
then it's better.
It's like 2.5 years or so, is it?
It's 3 years. Basically 3 years. Basically 3 years.
3 years, wow.
Basically 3 years. And the big thing about that challenge is a lot can happen in 3 years. Family can become unwell. Family can pass away. Everything that happens in your life. So that's the challenge, is continue doing this thing when life gets hard. Continue doing what you set out to do when everything gets difficult. You know, running around Britain, a couple of marathons a day for 4 months. That was hard, physically very hard. 12 hours a day on your feet. But there was an end in sight. It was very long. It was very far away, 5,500 miles of running. But it wasn't that far away, and I could just keep trudging and trudging and trudging, and it was getting closer. 1,000 days doesn't feel like it's getting closer for a very long time. And socially and with family and friends, there's a lot of stuff that happens that means I am going to have to dig deep to want to carry on when it might not be very helpful to, because I might just want to go, I need to go to a funeral. What if my parents get sick? And actually, if I start that mission, I will finish it. And so that's the endurance in me. That's the wanting to scratch that itch. Is I want to prove to myself that I've got that endurance in me. The social and the logistical endurance, as well as the physical.
The deeper you get to that, the harder it becomes to stop it as well.
Exactly.
You don't want to 666 days. You're like, no, because it's going to take me that long to get back to this place again.
And you know this from your run streak.
Yeah.
It's addictive.
Well, for me, I got to 500 and that didn't seem like a big enough number.
There you go.
So I carried on. That was what I set myself mini targets, I suppose. And initially it was just 50 because I was quite close to that after doing a month's challenge. But then it got to then it was like 100. But like you say, like you get to a point where after so many times, so many days, your body just kind of adapts to it.
And psychologically, it's easier to carry on because otherwise you'll be missing out on. You've just put 800 days worth of effort in. Of course, you're going to do 801.
Yeah, it's a very precious thing.
It's a very precious, and it's a very weird thing that us human beings do. But the thing about this trip is that if I run from 6 a.m. till 11 a.m. every day, that's 5 hours. That's more than enough time to do a slow slog of a marathon, more or less anywhere in the world, at any altitude generally. And then I can have the rest of the day.
Well, you're choosing to do this challenge the hard way. You're not just choosing to do 1,000 marathons in 1,000 days. You're doing this away from home.
Correct. Yeah, it will be away from home. It will be all over the world,
which is adding in. I mean, as much as anyone, the logistical challenges of being somewhere that is foreign.
True. That is very.
Why? Why not make it easy that you do it in the UK?
Easier. I think it's easier not being at home.
Really? Why is that?
Because it will become. It doesn't tick any of my boxes doing it at home. It doesn't. I don't have the urge to run around the same place over and over again.
But you could carry on like doing other things in your life. You could be working on your business as well. You could come back to home and.
What would I be most proud of? That's the.
Well, obviously you want to travel. You're a travel man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What would I be most proud of? What would I be most pleased to achieve? Yeah. Did I do 1,000 marathons in a few places and carry on with life, or did I, which is what I intend to do, have, for example, 8 months in the US, 8 months in South America, 8 months in Australia, 8 months in India, 8 months in other places in the world, and actually see stuff, write about it, have experiences, meet people. It's the whole concept of not using time and spending time, but actually investing it. And I think, again, going back to that phrase, do the hard thing. The harder it is, in a way, the more you feel at the end of it. And it's not just accomplishment. It's not just positivity. It's not just a sense of achievement. You feel connected to it more. It's not started yet, but the planning has very much happened, and I'm looking forward to starting that. It won't be next year; it'll be the year after. Waiting on some final funds to come in and life logistics to slot in place, and of course, the wonders of doing this kind of thing is that I can also still do run weekends. Not all of them, but some of them.
And as long as you do your marathon a day.
As long as I do my marathon in the day.
Wow. And that would be amazing because people can be part of that journey with you.
Oh, exactly. It's like we planned it.
Yes.
So there's
Oh, brilliant. And everything's coming full circle, having the synergy in your life. Yes.
Yes. So we'll see how that works. And there's going to be challenges. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be, weather, time of year, Christmases, flying from one place, loads of stuff. But you'll make a good book.
Okay. We're coming to the end. I want to close things with bringing things back home. We didn't actually talk in detail about this, but you've spoken about it at great lengths on other places, about your run around the coast of Britain. But I feel like with this title of the podcast being Great British Adventures, let's bring it back to our glorious home country and celebrate the places that you went and the people that you met. And I also did my own little cycle journey around the coast of Wales this summer. So I can attest to the amazing coastline that's around that part of the UK. But what really, really surprised you about touring our amazing coast?
Is that it's not just Britain. It's not just this tiny island. It's not just this box. When you talk about travel and adventure, I think most of us don't think of Britain. We think of somewhere else. We think of somewhere exotic or hot or high altitude. Or Britain is absolutely spectacular. And we live on a little island that has so much history, so much to be proud of. And yes, there's things that we are also not so proud of in our past. Let's look at the geography of the place. The hills, the climate of the particular part of where we are in the world. We have different temperatures. There's different winds. I experienced those and then some. The animals, we had something like 140 different species of bird that we saw on our trip. I was my right-hand man, Andy, absolute saint of a man, is a big birder, big twitcher. And he taught me a lot about various different bird species. And all of a sudden I was having my eyes open to running along a single track next to the coast. You've got the water on my right. And I'm noticing these birds. I'm learning about the birds. I'm listening to an audiobook that is about the Vikings or the history of Britain. I listened to 140 books in 4 months because I was running every day. It was wonderful. And then on top of that, I'm also learning about the plants and the wildlife around me. So where I'm stepping, what kind of ground am I on? Am I on chalk? And so it was this discovery. It wasn't just a run. It was a discovery of learning everything there was to learn about to be British, to be on our little island. And one thing I did learn is that it's bloody hilly. That's
especially coastline. You expect it to be flat, right? Because it's the sea.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sea level.
Exactly, sea level. And then all of a sudden you have these huge cliffs and up and down. And even on the coast of Cornwall, you've got 630 miles of the coast path, and that is astronomically hilly. So I started that whole journey in the Eden Project in St Austell and went anti-clockwise. And so I was immediately into the hills and along the Jurassic coast and then up and around London and up north on the east coast.
And you finally got to the flatlands of Essex and Norfolk and
Lincolnshire. Wonderful.
Which is where you should have started to get you into it.
Correct. Which is where I should have started in hindsight. And I don't think I'll be doing it again. Never say never, but I would definitely not be starting in Cornwall next time. That's for sure.
Well, I admire you for someone who has gone on these global epic adventures, for actually coming back home and saying, I also want to explore our incredible country as well.
Yeah, and it felt like I felt a little bit foolish to have done so much of the world, and I haven't actually explored my own country. And I've been to lots of lovely parts of the country, but actually we have a coastline that is runnable, and it's not tens of thousands of kilometers. Well, okay, it's not tens of thousands of miles. It's only 5,500 miles, and that is doable in a reasonable space of time, just with a few injuries thrown in there. You learn about cultures. We have a very diverse dialect of languages and accents. We have some beautiful coastlines. We have some hideous coastlines. We have little communities that I didn't know existed. We have fairgrounds on coasts. We have puffins on, it's very, very diverse. And I think that's something to be celebrated, and we should encourage British adventures more, for sure.
Well, that's one thing I'm big on. And well, you've now inspired me actually by saying that there's this finite distance of our coastline, and I've now done a trek of it through Wales. And I came back from that. I was like, this had everything for me, this journey across Wales, because I didn't realize on all the bike tours that I've been on that ultimately and we spoke about this at the very beginning when you spoke about living in Newquay, that at the end of every evening, I took my bike with my panniers and my stove, which had everything on it, directly down to the beach, literally on the sand, on like this fresh sand that the tide has gone out. I parked my bike there, I got my stove out, and I cooked my evening meal at the beach.
Nice.
And I didn't set up camp sometimes until late, or whether I set my tent up and then took my bike down. And for me, I didn't realize this at the beginning of the journey, but the journey for me became about sitting at the sea or swimming in the sea in the evening, having that evening time of reflection after having this a difficult time on and off the bike, but getting to a place where I could sit with solace and have a special time. And now I'm looking into like, okay, I suppose throughout my life, probably I could conquer and cycle the entire coast, in parts. I spent 3 weeks in Wales and I got to explore it, and it wasn't about a challenge about completing it all in a certain amount of time. So
Scotland next.
How do you define the coast though? Because there's a lot of coast in Scotland if you count islands and how close you get to the coast as well. It gets more
you have
and
to
more.
stay pretty close. Yeah, my rule was you stay as close to the coast as you can within reason. There's a lot of bits of Scotland that you have to end up running down dead ends because it just goes into water, or it's a headland that you have to spend 2 days running out and running back when it actually doesn't go anywhere. That's part of it. You have to do that. Yes, what defines? I mean, if you take into account all our islands, then it would take you your whole life. Because I think there's 10,000 islands around Britain. So don't include those.
Yeah, stick to mainland first.
Stick to the mainland first. Yeah, so mainland, and if a bridge is there, use it. You don't have to go up every estuary because that'll add another 5,000 miles.
Yeah, ferries are a godsend if they go across.
Exactly, use a ferry. So yeah, I was pretty fluid with that.
Did you do the Ferryside ferry in Wales that's near Llanelli?
No.
It got you across an estuary there. I don't know if that would have been around at that time.
No, I remember that because no ferries were in Wales. We had 9 ferries on the trip.
So you would have had to go up the coast, or did you drive up and then just run on the other side of the coast? When you got to an estuary, did you run the entire length of the estuary? Yeah. Blimey!
If there wasn't a ferry or a
wow, that's hardcore. Yeah. They can add on like 25 kilometers.
Yeah. Well, in Scotland it can add 4 days.
Wow.
It's long. The big ones like London and the Mersey, just go straight over.
Okay.
Lots of, I don't know how many bridges we did. We only did 9 ferries. Only did 9 ferries, and if we hadn't done those 9, it would have added so many miles. So I was very much, if you look at my Strava routes, we stuck to the
man. Your heat map. I'm obsessed with my heat map, and I'm using it as a way to explore the UK initially and work out where I haven't been. And it's really nice. I've done some long bike tours where I've crossed countries, right? And you get this amazing line that goes through.
That's very satisfying.
Seeing your heat map.
Yes,
that's global as well.
Yeah, all over the place, and repeated now with run weekends. So it's growing and growing.
Wow. Well, a huge inspiration. Thank you so much for your time, for hosting me in your home in Newquay.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down and to setting up all your stuff to do this. And I think it's also a very undersung thing with podcasts, and it's a platform to share my journey and hopefully inspire others. But it's a love affair of producing some good artistic content, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share it. So thank you.
Yeah, I think people are going to be really inspired by what you've been talking about, and I hope it inspires people to go off and do something.
Me too. Or at least, even if it's just an extra 10 minutes doing what they love, then we've won.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you want to find out more information about any of the guests, please check out the show notes, where you'll also find links to things mentioned in the conversation. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please take a look through the past recordings. There's so many more incredible stories for you to find. And I can't wait for you to enjoy them. Thank you.